Welcome back to the Wisdom of the Philosopher series. Today we're venturing into, well, some pretty profound territory, Aristotle's Metaphysics.
It's definitely a cornerstone text.
Absolutely. And it's not just some dusty old book, right? It genuinely shapes how we think about reality. Our goal today is really to unpack some of its most enduring insights for you, the listener.
And we'll be pulling from different parts of the work itself. You'll hear us mention the book letters like Z, H, or Greek letters like theta, along with some helpful commentaries.
Yeah, trying to make it engaging, maybe find some surprising connections as we explore concepts like, what it truly means for something to be.
Or the difference between potentiality and actuality. Big ones.
Huge. And the building blocks of reality itself. We want to spark your understanding without hopefully getting too bogged down in overly academic jargon.
Right.
And maybe before we dive in, just a quick reminder, if you enjoy these explorations, please do consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell helps too.
It really does help others find these discussions.
So where do we even start with something as, well, vast as the metaphysics? How did Aristotle himself seem to approach it?
That's a great question. It seems he saw certain parts, specifically the books known as Zeta and Eta, ZH, as kind of preliminary. Laying the groundwork, you could say.
Groundwork for the main event.
Sort of, yeah. Preliminary to the main object of metaphysics, but still crucial. He saw them as definitely part of the whole treatise. He even hints that later books like Mu and Nu, MN, would follow on from them.
Interesting. So even the early explorations are fundamental, not just like optional extras.
Exactly.
And I remember reading that Book E suggests metaphysics deals with insensible being, things we can't, touch or see directly. What does that tell us about the scope here?
It points towards a reality beyond just our immediate senses.
Yeah.
The core goal for Aristotle in metaphysics was really to investigate the most basic principles, the primary causes of existence.
Really deep stuff.
Right. And central to that were the concepts of substance, what things are fundamentally, and the axioms, those basic truths underlying all reason.
Okay, substance and axioms. And I gather there's even some scholarly debate about how the books were originally ordered. Does that complicate things?
Oh, definitely. Scholars like Jaeger argued about which books belonged where, like Emina coming after ZH. It speaks to the complexity of reconstructing his thought process, for sure.
Yeah, you can imagine.
But it also shows how interconnected it all is. Aristotle believed metaphysics had to tackle the very being of the categories. Quality, quantity, relation, all those ways we describe things.
Right.
And also those dynamic ideas of potentiality and actuality. He really digs into those in ZH, and especially book Theta.
Potentiality and actuality. Yeah, those sound key for understanding change. We should definitely circle back to those. But first, what was the ultimate aim? Why do metaphysics at all, according to Aristotle?
Well, for him, it was about finding the primary, the most universal causes, the deepest explanations. That's why he called it the highest form of knowledge, Sophia, wisdom.
Sophia, wisdom. Okay.
He was searching for aletheia, the ultimate truth about reality itself.
Wow. A quest for the ultimate foundations. And he wasn't doing this in a vacuum, right? He engaged with earlier thinkers.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
A big part of the metaphysics is him looking at what philosophers before him said, Plato, the Pythagoreans, the pre-Socratics. He uses their ideas, sometimes critiques them, to sharpen his own account of these primary causes.
Makes sense. You build on what came before. Okay, let's dig into one of those huge concepts then. Substance. Ousia in Greek. Aristotle felt knowing what something is, its substance, was more basic than knowing its qualities or size. What exactly is substance for him?
At its heart, substance is the essential nature of a thing. What makes it that specific thing, fundamentally, not just its properties.
So not just red or heavy, but the thing itself that is red or heavy.
Precisely. But there's a bit of an ambiguity, you have to admit, in how he uses the term. Sometimes it's that underlying essence, the whatness. Other times it seems to refer more to the concrete individual thing.
Ah, okay. So the essence versus the particular thing, like dogness versus the specific dog, Fido.
Kind of, yeah. That distinction is important. And, there wasn't agreement back then on what counts as substance. The common view was, obvious things. Animals, plants, the elements, earth, air, fire, water, and things made from them.
The stuff we see around us.
Right. But then you had others, like the Pythagoreans, who were more abstract. They thought the limits of bodies, planes, lines, points were actually more substantial.
More mathematical, almost.
Very much so. And then Plato, Aristotle's teacher, famously had his theory of forms. For him, true substance wasn't here in the physical world at all.
Right, the forms existed separately, and mathematical objects, too.
Yes, forms and mathematical objects, distinct from physical bodies. And others in the academy had variations, too. Speusippus talked about different kinds of substance numbers, magnitudes, soul, each with separate origins.
Oh, okay.
And Xenocrates tried to link forms and numbers with things like lines and planes being sort of dependent substances.
It sounds like a real philosophical debate happening. Now, Aristotle brings in this term essence, tateia, literally what it was to be. How does that fit with substance?
Essence, for Aristotle, belongs primarily to substances. It's the definition, the formula that captures what it means to be that thing.
The core definition.
Exactly. Interestingly, he says even mixed terms, like white man, have an essence. It's kind of union, the essence of man plus the essence of the quality, whiteness.
Okay, so even combinations have a definable essence, but he distinguishes these from what he calls coupled terms, like snub nose. What's the difference?
The key is the inherent connection. Snub doesn't really mean anything apart from nose. It describes a quality in a subject, a concavity of a nose. You can't define snub on its own like you can define white or man.
Ah, I see. The parts are inseparable in the definition itself.
Right. That inherent dependency means they can't be defined in the same fundamental way as a substance. Their definition always points back to or presupposes a substance.
Which leads to his broader point, right? That qualities, quantities, relations, all those other categories, they only make sense in relation to a substance. Only substance can be defined independently.
That's a really central idea. And he also looks at different kinds of wholes or composites, Synolon. There's the obvious one, the sensible individual.
Like this particular tree.
Exactly. Form plus particular sensible matter. The concrete things we encounter.
Okay. But there were other kinds.
Yes. He also talks about the intelligible individual. Think of a specific geometric circle, not one drawn in the sand, but the abstract concept. That's form circularity plus what he calls particular intelligible matter. It's conceptual stuff, you might say.
Huh. Intelligible matter. That's abstract.
It is. And then there's the materiate universal, like the general concept human. That's the form human plus a kind of universal sensible matter.
So even general concepts have a material aspect in a way. This is definitely more layered than it first appears. How does this relate to genus and species, like animal being the genus for human?
He sees the genus, the broader category like animal, as a kind of vague matter or potentiality.
Okay.
And that potentiality gets actualized, given specific form, by the specific characteristics that define the species, like human or dog.
So animal is the potential, rational is the differentia, actualizing the species human.
Got it. Now, Aristotle argued strongly that universals, these general concepts like animal or human, cannot be substance. Why not?
His argument is that a universal signifies such a kind of thing, never this, a specific individual thing.
Because human applies to many individuals.
Exactly. Definitions are universal. They capture what's common. But an individual substance is unique. So a definition being universal can't fully capture the specific thisness of an individual.
Because individuals have matter.
Yeah.
Which makes them particular and also means they can change and perish.
Right. And that's also why he criticized Plato's forms. Even if they existed separately as individuals, they'd lack that connection to sensible matter that grounds real individuality, in Aristotle's view. He really grounds substance in the concrete individual. But what about things defined by their features, like artifacts, a statue, say, or temporary states, like being healthy? Are they substances?
No, not in the primary sense. Things defined mainly by their differences, or artifacts made by humans, or temporary states, or even parts of living bodies, they aren't substances themselves.
So what does count among perishable things?
Only things held together by nature, as he puts it. Things with an internal principle of uni and change. Living organisms, the natural elements. Those are the primary examples of substance in the world around us.
A plant is a substance, but the pot it's in isn't, in that same fundamental way.
Okay.
But you mentioned earlier the idea of ultimate species, the most specific categories. Doesn't that complicate the focus on the individual?
It does seem to create a tension. While he stresses the individual as the primary substance existing in the world, a lot of his actual philosophical work involves defining the essence of universals, right down to these most specific types, the aschata aisti.
So he talks about universals even while saying they aren't the real substance.
It seems so. It suggests that while existence belongs to the individual, Our understanding and definitions often operate at the level of these universal species. There's this sort of interplay between the individual particular and the universal concept.
A balancing act. Okay, that's a lot on substance and essence. Let's shift gears, as you mentioned, to potentiality, dynamis, and actuality, energia. These really come to the fore in Book H, right? Moving from static being to dynamic change.
Exactly. And Book Theta is dedicated just to them. Potentiality, simply put, is a power or capacity. A power to initiate change or the capacity to be changed, to pass into a new state. It's the could-be.
And actuality.
Actuality is the realization, the being at work, the is, the state that fulfills the potential.
Like the seed has the potentiality to be a tree, and the tree is the actuality.
Perfect example. Now, Aristotle makes a crucial argument. Actuality is, in some ways, prior to potentiality.
Prior. That sounds counterintuitive. Don't you need potential first?
Well, think about it causally. Something actual has to act to bring a potentiality into actuality. You need an actual tree to produce the seed, which has the potential. You need an actual builder to actualize the potential of the bricks to become a house.
Ah, okay. In terms of the cause, the actual comes first.
Right. Prior in causation, and often in definition and knowledge too, you often define the potential in terms of the actual state it aims for.
That makes sense. Now, how does this tie into his idea of the unmoved mover, the ultimate cause?
The unmoved mover is conceived as pure actuality. No potentiality whatsoever.
Why no potentiality?
Because if it had potentiality, it would mean it could change, it could be acted upon. And if it could be acted upon, it wouldn't be the first ultimate source of motion. Something else would have to actualize its potential. So it must be pure, unchanging actuality.
And it moves things, not by pushing.
No, not physically. It acts as an object of desire or aspiration. The eternal, perfect actuality of the unmoved mover inspires the eternal circular movements of the celestial spheres. They move because they're striving, in a way, to emulate that perfection.
Wow. So it moves things by being loved or desired, a non-physical cause of motion. And these moving spheres, they cause changes down here on Earth.
Yes, that's the link. The eternal motion of the heavens, especially the sun, causes cycles of heating and cooling on Earth. This, in turn, drives the transmutation of the four elements: earth, air, fire, water combining and separating.
A cosmic chain reaction, starting from the unmoved mover.
Pretty much. This celestial activity allows things made of local matter, things bound to Earth, to participate in their limited way in the eternal cycle, moving towards the perfection embodied by the divine intellect.
And what is that divine intellect like, God's consciousness?
Aristotle describes it famously as noesis, thought thinking itself.
Thought thinking itself.
Yes. Its only object is its own activity of thinking, pure self-consciousness. It's completely unlike human thought, our knowledge, perception, opinion, reasoning, which is always of something else, something external.
So a completely self-contained, perfect intellectual activity. How does that relate to our minds then? How do humans think and learn?
Here he introduces a distinction within the human soul.
Yeah.
Active reason, poietikos, and passive reason.
Active and passive reason.
Right. Passive reason is like the potentiality for thought, the raw material. Active reason is the agent, the spark, that acts on passive reason to turn potential knowledge into actual understanding. It's like light making colors visible.
So active reason illuminates the potential in passive reason.
Exactly. And controversially, Aristotle suggests this active reason is immortal, eternal, perhaps even identical in all individuals.
Identical in everyone. Whoa, that's a profound thought. A shared eternal spark of intellect enabling knowledge.
It's definitely one of the more debated and intriguing parts of his psychology and metaphysics. It connects the human intellect back to that divine, eternal realm of thought.
Okay, we've touched on substance, potentiality, actuality, the unmoved mover. What about some other key metaphysical concepts? Like the one. Plato and the Pythagoreans were big on that, weren't they?
They were. The Platonists often describe the forms as numbers, generated somehow from the one, and a principle of multiplicity, the great and small.
So the one as a source.
Yes, but used in complex ways. Xenocrates apparently used it both as form or essence and as a kind of material part in generating numbers. Speusippus, interestingly, didn't want to call the one good because he thought Genesis required contraries, implying plurality must be somehow evil. Aristotle discusses these views, often critically, in relation to his own concept of unity, which he links to the categories.
The categories again. They seem to pop up everywhere. Remind us what they are fundamentally.
They're essentially Aristotle's classification of the different ways being can be predicated of a subject. the highest kinds of predicates.
Like substance, quality, quantity.
Exactly. Substance is primary, the thing itself. Then quality, like white, quantity, 2 meters long, relation and thorn, place, time, position, state, action, passion. The lists vary slightly, but those are the main ones. They all depend on substance.
They describe aspects of a substance. Got it. He also talks about accidental being to symbabikos. Metaphysics isn't primarily about that, right?
Right. He sets that aside somewhat, saying it's dealt with elsewhere. Accidents are attributes that happen to belong to a subject but aren't essential to it. Like the musician is pale. Pale is accidental to being a musician.
It could be otherwise.
Precisely. Aristotle links accidentality partly to matter, because matter holds the potentiality for opposites. The matter in the musicians could just as easily have been not pale. It allows for these non-essential connections.
So matter is a source of contingency, of things just happening to be a certain way.
In a sense, yes, though accidental events still need an efficient cause, something to make them happen, and sometimes even a final cause, like a desire leading someone to be in a certain place at a certain time where something accidental occurs.
Okay. And finally, what about basic logical principles, like contradiction and truth? Where do they fit in metaphysics?
They're absolutely fundamental. Metaphysics studies the most basic axioms, and the principle of non-contradiction, that something can't both be and not be the same thing at the same time in the same respect, is the most fundamental of all.
You can't argue against it without assuming it.
Exactly. Denying it leads to absurdity, as Aristotle shows. He refutes views like Pythagoras' man is the measure of all things, arguing that truth isn't just subjective appearance. Truth and falsity, for Aristotle, relate objectively to whether our judgments correctly affirm or deny predicates of subjects.
So metaphysics defends the very possibility of objective truth and rational discourse.
That's a crucial part of its role, yes, establishing the firmest foundations for knowledge.
We have covered an immense amount of ground today, from the scope of metaphysics through substance, essence, potentiality, actuality, the unmoved mover, the categories, accidents, truth. It's just staggering how much Aristotle packed into this work.
It truly is. The metaphysics lays out a framework for understanding reality, being, cause, and change that has resonated through philosophy for over 2 millennia. It's challenging, for sure, but incredibly rewarding.
Definitely. Well, we hope this exploration in our Wisdom of the Philosopher series has given you, our listeners, some valuable insights into Aristotle's thought and maybe sparked some further curiosity. We really aimed for a clear path through some dense ideas.
Highlighting connections, trying not to overwhelm.
Exactly. So what stands out to you from all this? Which aspect of substance or potentiality or maybe the nature of being itself really resonates or raises questions for you?
We genuinely want to know. Share your thoughts, your questions, your aha moments down in the comment section.
Please do. And if you found this discussion valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration.
Your engagement really helps support the series.
And perhaps a final thought to leave you with, building on that idea of active reason. If there is indeed an eternal, perhaps shared intellectual principle that allows us to grasp truth, what might that suggest about the ultimate nature of our own individual consciousness and its place in the cosmos? Something to ponder. Thanks for joining us on Wisdom of the Philosophers.